Now, this does put this quote from John Harbaugh. He'll be recognized as the greatest quarterback ever. The one thing this does do, and I understand that's how your coach should talk about it. You should have that confidence and you should have that belief. That puts a lot of hype on him. Because then there can be people, if he finishes his career and he's not even close to being one of the GOATs, like, remember that time John Harbaugh said this and they'll call John Harbaugh an idiot? It just had me thinking of like, Lamar is not in this conversation for sure. But those overhyped dudes we've seen, whether coming out of college or shown those flashes as a pro that fizzled out. If I go with coming out of college, Zach Wilson. Second overall pick by the Jets. He had that one pro day. What did he do? He like rolled out to his left, reset his feet, slung it literally across the field, down the right sideline, hit his quarterback in his lap. Like all the arm strength, but has rocks for brains. Can't read a defense, doesn't know how to execute an NFL offensive playbook. To me, it's one of the most overhyped guys I've ever seen.
Yeah, I remember like in high school, just growing up, watching a lot of Pac-12 football, obviously from the West Coast, watching Pac-12 football, and I got to see Mark Sanchez and Marcus Mariota. Dude, those two dudes just were so hyped coming into the draft that they're in their draft class years, and it was honestly warranted because they were winning. So like they looked unbeatable, honestly, in college. Mark Sanchez with USC, Marcus Mariota with the Oregon. Dude, it was like you go into that game, you know you're putting up 50 points. If you don't put up 50 points, you're losing to USC or you're losing to Oregon that night. That's just kind of how it felt back in those days. So coming into their draft classes, I think they were both the second quarterbacks taken off the list with their, in their respective classes. And they were just the guy. Like everybody was like, oh, they're going to change the New York Jets. They're going to change the Tennessee Titans. And they were both so bad. Just awful. So, yeah, hype when you talk about coming out of college, those two come to mind.
Mariota had like 2 good years. And like good is the most I'll give him in Tennessee.
Good.
And then he could never pan out. Was terrible in Atlanta. Didn't work in Oakland.
Yeah.
But I think he's bought into his role. He's with the Commanders now, like on the roster. And like that describes it.
Right.
Sanchez, dude, the guys out of USC. Matt Leinart. Was it John David Booty and then Mark Sanchez?
Yeah, I think Booty was before, in between those two.
Sam Darnold.
Yep.
Career backup. But again, I put him as a victim of the Jets. A lot of USC quarterbacks to come out.
Yep.
I think of Notre Dame. There's Brady Quinn. There's Jimmy Clausen.
Yeah.
I remember Jimmy Clausen as like the high school recruit was seen as the guy, both of them, to lead Notre Dame to a national championship.
Yeah.
Brady Quinn didn't get close. Jimmy Clausen didn't get close. Clausen was picked by the Panthers and was terrible.
Yep.
And he's doing all the overhyped stuff. So those are the guys that come to mind. I like that Marcus Mariota, Mark Sanchez pick. Same thing. The hype's different, and again, I'm going on college because I think by the time he got to the pros, you're like, I don't know if he can do that against the NFL. But Johnny Manziel, you were picked 22nd overall by the Browns. You were given the keys to the Ferrari.
Yep.
And what sucks with him is he didn't live up to the hype just because he had no accountability. He didn't have a good team around him because he wouldn't watch film at all, wouldn't care, would go out and play, make some plays.
Right.
And he got away with it at A&M, especially in his first year because no one knew what to expect.
Yeah.
He lived everyone's dream to be like the rock star, to be the man in college football.
Yep.
Literally, I mean, the way he introduced himself to the world is upsetting Alabama, beating Nick Saban, taking that, running with it. Of course, he had Mike Evans with him in A&M too.
Yep.
But just look at what the separation was. Mike Evans is going to go down as one of the all-time great receivers. Johnny Manziel was never an even factor in the NFL.
No, he wasn't. And like you said, the Texas A&M Johnny Manziel highlights, dude, like I'm going to watch him after we finish this episode. He was so electric. He had Drake making songs about him.
Yeah, that's right. Draft day, Johnny Manziel.
So he was huge. And it makes sense that like there would be this much hype about him because like he looked like an average American, you know what I mean? He was like a smaller guy for a quarterback, white man, obviously, and just like didn't look like he should be super athletic.
Scrawny,
but then he
small.
was right. But then he was just super fast with the football. You couldn't tackle him or take him down. He could stretch any play and make a huge play out of it. And then he was having fun while he was doing it. Like you said, he was loud, but braggadocious, all of those things. So Johnny Manziel is definitely a good call. The other guy that I quickly want to talk about too is Vince Young. Vince Young was a kind of annoying for me because growing up SC fan, what he did to us in that national championship game, I will never forget.
I mean, Reggie Bush is my all-time favorite college football player, so I was very upset with that national championship too. Trust me.
But he came into the league, dude. He was the cover of Madden after year 2. And then after that, he had the knee injury for 3 weeks, came back, and he still got benched for Kerry Collins. And Kerry Collins obviously went on to take the Titans. I think they were 13-3 that year. And then they ended up giving him the starting job back after Kerry Collins started off terrible the next year, 0-6. And then he kind of, got comeback player of the year. And everybody was like, okay, he has a chance to be the guy that we thought he was going to be. But he was never that great. Honestly, I went and looked back at the stats, and he never really had a year that he, threw more touchdowns than he threw interceptions. The first 2 years,
great revisionist history on Vince Young, because it was all those fourth quarter comebacks in his rookie season.
Yeah, exactly.
It was all the comebacks he led Tennessee to. Then gets rookie of the year, and there's something special with this guy. And it was the Vince Young that we remember from the Rose Bowl.
Exactly.
And it was it's the same one. He's a gamer, but he was never that good.
Exactly. I look at it, rookie year, 12 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Sophomore year, 9 touchdowns, 17 picks.
His second year in the NFL.
Second year in the NFL. Then they give him the Madden cover.
Yep.
Couldn't be any more overhyped than that.
Yeah. I think that's a great call.
Yeah.
I never looked up Vince Young's stats.
Yeah.
To find that out. What were the following years?
The following year, so the year obviously, like I talked about, where he got hurt in week 3, he was supposed to miss 3 games. He only got 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and then it was 10-7, 10-3, and then he moved on to Philly, where he was a backup, and he was 4 touchdowns, 9 interceptions.
As a
then
backup, that's terrible.
And then he retired.
He was on that Philly. They were calling it the Dream Team.
Yeah,
because he was there. I think what year was that when he was at Philly?
It was 2011.
Mike Vick was still there.
Yep, yeah, exactly.
They had all those receivers. I think even cornerbacks. They had Nnamdi Asomugha, but he was washed up by that point. Yep. Damn, that's a throwback name, Nnamdi Asomugha.
Nnamdi Asomugha.
Catch him acting now.
Right.
My final one.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy.
And that is the hype that was built up when he was drafted by the Patriots. Then Tom Brady goes into Robert Kraft's office, goes over Bill Belichick's head. It's like, you got to trade this guy. Either he's going or I'm going. I'm not dealing with him.
Yeah.
Because he knew Jimmy's going to get paid, and that comes with when you move on from a veteran quarterback. And Tom Brady's like, I still have it. I don't want to leave.
Right.
Looking back on it now, TV12 can be like, I'm getting out of here. Get me to a coach I can actually draft. But he wasn't going to leave. So Jimmy Garoppolo traded to the 49ers for a second-round pick when it came out later that the Patriots could have gotten a first-round pick, but Bill Belichick was being petty to the Patriots, being petty to the Cleveland Browns, who fired him.
Yep.
Played 5 games, 300-plus yards per game that offseason. 5-year, $137 million extension. Week 3, tears his ACL, is done. 2019 bounces back, throws for almost 4,000 yards, take the 49ers to the Super Bowl. 2020 high ankle sprain, just never got healthy.
Yeah.
And now he's with the Rams. Just a backup with the Rams.
Yeah.
Dude, but he was overhyped, and it was the glow of being a Patriots quarterback, right? Like, if Bill Belichick picked him, that means he's good. And he would put up numbers a few years. Wasn't anything insane, but he would carry a team and took the 49ers to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Missed on a deep post, and that could have changed his whole trajectory as a starter because maybe the Niners actually beat the Chiefs that year in the Super Bowl and win it. But didn't pan out, and I just think, again, a really overhyped guy.
So if you had to give me a top 3, could you run through a top 3 for me really quickly of overhyped quarterbacks that didn't work out?
I like that pick that you went with off the rip. I like the Marcus Mariota one, but if I'm going off pure hype, so I'm going college or when they were in a pro.
Yeah, it's up to you.
So that's why I go Zach Wilson.
Yep.
Because everyone was all over him, and he's just
so he's at 3 or 1.
Amounted to nothing. I'll go Zach Wilson 1.
Okay.
All right, and then my 2, I would go on this one with Jimmy Garoppolo because he got paid by a team. So I would do that. Okay. 3 in the overhype, and I just think it's the funniest thing ever, but is Matt Flynn. Plays a 1 game for the Packers, sets every single game record. The Seahawks give him the bag in the offseason, then he gets beat out by a 4th-round pick in Russell Wilson.
Okay, if I had to rank off 3 really quickly, I love all the names that we did, but a guy who was super hyped in college that I remember just kind of being around that, going to high school in that area, Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen at 3, him in the first round, 10th pick, 2018, super hyped. He was supposed to have all the tools, all the
man
things.
at UCLA covers the Sports Illustrated in his hot tub in his dorm room.
The only questions that they had about him was whether he was a nice guy or not. He was really kind of just not a nice guy to the media or whatever, not a nice guy to his teammates. I think there was a big issue with him, like missing a teammate's birthday or something like that when it was supposed to be a big deal, or not inviting any of his teammates to his birthday party.
Is that what they got like the draft day scene from, where like they were between quarterbacks? You see draft
so.
day?
Yeah.
And the GM's like, you see the guest list? He's like, none of his teammates went. So they pick like the running back instead.
I think that's where they got it from. So Josh Rosen would be 3 for me. Blake Bortles would be another guy more on the NFL side. He had a great first 2 years of his career. And then after that.
He had like a good 4 years.
Like 4 years.
But he was always on a losing team.
Right. Yeah, and then the next one was Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz one time was regarded as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I don't think that he was ever that good. It's the Philly hype narrative, you know what I mean?
He would have won an MVP, but then he tore in his ACL.
Yeah.
And then Nick Foles led him to the Super Bowl to win it.
Exactly. And he didn't do anything in Indiana.
Again, Carson Wentz, like you're talking about Josh Rosen being like a prick. Carson Wentz was the same way.
Yeah.
Wouldn't take coaching, and that's why he fizzled out in Philly, fizzled out in Indy, fizzled out in Washington.
Yeah.
And now he's in Kansas City, where he doesn't have to play, so I guess you don't got to coach him. You just got to hope he runs the system if it comes to that.